You might know him from Karate Kid or the many years he spent on your screens in soaps. He now has a new show on Amazon called Studio City. Welcome, Sean Kanan.
Hey guys, how are you? Thanks for having me.
No problem. All right, so we want to start off with the early parts of your career. How did you get into acting? What was the catalyst?
So when I was about, I guess, 14 or 15 years old, somehow, uh, oh no, actually, you know what? Let me take that back a second. I actually remember. So I had a friend, and he told me that he was going to go to an open call at a modeling agency. So I was like, all right, I'll go with you, whatever. And we wound up going, and they wound up signing me and not him, which was a whole other story. And so when I was in high school, I did temporarily for about 2 weeks have a job flipping burgers at McDonald's. But when I started to do a little modeling, it was a much better deal. And so from that, I booked a television commercial. This was when I lived in Western Pennsylvania outside of Pittsburgh. So I did this television commercial, and it got me my SAG card. And that's a really big deal because a lot of actors come to LA or New York, and it takes them a really long time to get their SAG card. And if you don't have your SAG card, you can't work in SAG productions, and it's kind of a vicious catch-22. So, when I grew up, I used to love to go to the movies. I still do. And my earliest mentors were, Obi-Wan Kenobi. It was, Clint Eastwood as the outlaw Josie Wales, Bruce Lee, and I didn't know it, but they were mentors for me, and that's what really started sparking my desire to become an actor and also to get out of my small town and go see the bigger world. So I went away to boarding school, and by the time I was there, I was finishing my junior and senior year, and I really knew that I wanted to become an actor and either move to New York or California because those are the two big epicenters of acting.
Mm-hmm.
And I figured it would be easier to be broke where the weather was nice. So I went to school for 2 years at Boston University, and then I transferred out to UCLA to finish my political science degree. And while I was there, I just started knocking on doors. I started getting some small jobs, and then I eventually got the role for Karate Kid 3, and that's when things really, started to change dramatically for me.
Wow, so modeling, that's what got you in.
Yes, the handsome boy modeling school. No.
Yeah. All right, so I want to move on to Karate Kid 3. Obviously,
Okay.
it's pretty big for you. So what was the audition like? Did you have to know martial arts to try out? What did
Okay.
that look like?
So I had been studying martial arts since I was about 14 years old. I've studied it off and on most of my life. So I did have a pretty strong martial arts background going into it. I got the role from an open call, cattle call they call it, which is basically like anybody who wants to show up can show up. And I showed up at the studio, and there were about 1,500 people lined up there. And the director, John Avildsen, who had won the Academy Award for Rocky and had directed the first two Karate Kid films, picked me out of the line. I went in to the studio. I did a screen test with Ralph Macchio, and thought I did pretty well. And they went ahead and hired somebody else. So I was pretty crushed. And about a week later, they fired the guy, and they called me back, and I got the role.
Wow.
Yeah.
I
Wow.
feel like you see that in a lot of big pictures where
Uh-huh.
someone who was originally there gets fired and then a new person comes in.
It happens. And I can only imagine how crushing it was for that guy.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, you know, I think from what I've heard, the guy really had no acting experience at all, and just it was overwhelming for him. And it happens. And most actors have stories about being let go from jobs, and it's a really difficult thing, but it does happen, and it even happens with some very big and famous actors. So
Yeah.
I was I was fortunate that they remembered me.
Yeah. So there's a rumor that you were under doctor care for the fight scene. What happened with that
Well,
situation?
well, what happened was this. We had been filming for about 2 weeks, and we broke for Christmas vacation. And so I went to Las Vegas with a friend, and I was having a lot of pain in my upper left thigh, which I attributed to all the karate that I was doing. But so I started taking a lot of aspirin. Well, Christmas Day, 1989, while everyone else was, getting ready to have Christmas with their family and unwrapping gifts, I was in the emergency room at the Humana Sunrise Hospital being told that I was bleeding to death. I had incurred some internal bleeding, and the aspirin that I was taking is a blood thinner, so it made the bleeding even worse. I had lost a ton of blood, and they had to do emergency surgery. And the funny thing is, it wasn't a stunt that had anything to do with martial arts. It was just a really small little stupid thing where I was standing and I had to jump and land on my side on the ground. But I did it again and again and again. And I guess kind of a freak accident, it perforated my intestine. And it was life-threatening. And so I had to rehabilitate. I had to get myself discharged from the hospital. I had 15 inches of staples down my abdomen, and they discharged me against medical advice. And I wound up working to rehabilitate myself very quickly. And I wound up finishing the film, and I wound up doing all of my own martial arts in the film.
Wow, that's great. So you've been in a lot of popular soap operas. You've actually gotten some award nominations from them as well. So for viewers who don't know, can you say some of your most popular ones?
Well, the first soap opera I did was General Hospital, and I did that from about 1992 to 1997. And then I went back in, I think, was it 2014, 15, for the 50th anniversary. Started Bold and the Beautiful in 2001, and I've done that off and on through 2016. I was on the short-lived soap Sunset Beach, and then I also played the same character that I played on The Bold and Beautiful, Deacon Sharp. I also played that character for a couple years on The Young and the Restless.
Did your characters on soaps have anything in common with you?
I think there's a part of me that obviously goes into every character I play. Sure, yeah, I think so. I mean, I think as an actor, you draw on your own life experience first. So sure.
Huh. Yeah.
Would you say you like playing the somewhat bad guy in a lot of your stuff?
I have been cast as a lot of bad guys. I've also been cast as a lot of good guys, but it's fun to play a bad guy. It really is. I mean, as an actor, it allows you to do things that would be completely, it would peg you as a sociopath if you did that sort of stuff in real life. And so it's fun to be able to do that sort of stuff within the parameters of basically not getting in trouble like you would if you did it in the real world.
Yeah.
How busy were you when you were on your soaps? Like on set, how busy was it?
So it's interesting because we have a lot of time off. So when you're doing a soap, generally you get a month off around Christmas and New Year's, and you get a month off in the summer, which is great. When I was doing Bold and Beautiful, we always had Mondays off. So the most you would ever work is 4 days a week. But when you're working, when you're actually there, it's incredibly, there's a lot of pressure, and you're working very hard because we would do more than one show a day. So we would film one show a day plus parts of one or two other shows because when we take that time off, the show is still airing. So we have to bank shows. So, if you were in a real heavy storyline, you would work like maybe 3 days a week, sometimes 4. But in those 3 or 4 days, you might do 5 or 6 shows. If you're not in a real heavy storyline, you might work 1 or 2 days a week, and then you have that time off again, like I said, during the summer and during the holidays. So you do get a lot of downtime, but when you're actually working, it's pretty intense.
Yeah. How would you say it's different from working on a movie?
Okay, so a movie, generally, you're going to shoot between 8 and 10, 12 pages a day, maybe. So you move at a much slower pace. One of the reasons you move at a slower pace is that movies, you have to light the scene, and lighting the scene takes hours to do before the actors even come on. When you're doing a soap opera, you're in a studio where the lighting is preset. I mean, there's literally an entire grid of lights above you, basically spanning the entire soundstage, and they're able through computers to decide what lights they're going to use for that scene, and it's very quick. So you're not waiting for them to light. The lighting is all preset from the day before. So the actors walk onto the set and they're ready to shoot. There's not the downtime that there is during the movie. You know, a movie is great because you do move at a slower pace. You tend to have some rehearsal time. You know, I like the speed that television moves at. I like the pace, but as an actor trying to do my best work, I like the advantages that a film affords me.
You've been on many soaps. Do you have any particularly pleasant memories, ones that stand out?
Yeah, I mean, you know, Bold and the Beautiful was incredible. It was, it's in the Guinness World Book of Records as the most syndicated show in the world, more than Baywatch was. And so it was in, I think at one point, it might've been in like 100 countries. And so, you know, after doing it for a couple months, I was recognized around the world, and it opened up an entirely new career for me in a way. Bold and the Beautiful was the number one show in Italy. And so very early on, I began studying Italian. I figured if I could learn to speak Italian, I could have kind of a secondary career in Italy. And sure enough, I wound up shooting a film in Italy. I've done numerous television shows in Italy, and I was also on the Italian version of Dancing with the Stars. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, those are all fond memories. And also, I had the opportunity to do some really great work with some really talented people. So for the most part, the memories that I have from working in daytime are really great. And the 30 years off and on of working in daytime was the impetus for me creating Studio City, which is about a guy who's an aging soap star.
Oh,
How many hours went into like practicing for Dancing with the Stars?
yeah.
Oh boy, lots and lots and lots. I mean, the first thing is, as the man, you have to lead. Okay. Now, as a guy that's never danced before, I have to be the one leading my dance teacher, who's the professional. I was also doing it in Italian. That was a challenge. My Italian wasn't very good then. It's since become, much better because I've continued to work at it. I think we rehearsed for almost 3 weeks before the show started. And then you're basically getting a new dance every week. And you're not only learning the basic steps of the dance, but you're learning the choreography for the dance that you're then going to do on TV. So, I mean, hours and hours and hours. It was a lot.
Yeah, I can imagine. That sounds really stressful. I'm not a good dancer.
It was stressful.
Along the same lines, do you have any co-stars that particularly stand out or you want to work with again or anything like that?
Well, sure. I'd love to work with, Billy Zabka and Ralph Macchio again. Martin Kove and I did a play together. So I've worked with Marty over the years. Who else? A lot of the actors that are on Studio City are actors that I've worked with before, and I hired them specifically because I wanted to work with them again.
That's fun. Do you see yourself returning to network soaps anytime soon, or Studio City your focus
No,
right now?
I don't think so anytime soon. I mean, there's the potential maybe at some point that I would go back, but I'm so busy right now with Studio City, with my new book. I got a lot of stuff going on. So, if the situation was right and if my schedule allowed me to do it, I'm open to talking about it. But right now, no plans.
All right.
Some of your most recent work in Amazon's Studio City. I heard that there's some family involved and that you and your wife are writers. How does that dynamic work?
It's great, but it's not without friction. My wife is a tremendous writer. We were both nominated for an Emmy for our writing. She's also one of the producers along with me on the show. It's great because I have constant access to her. So we're always able to talk about the show and come up with ideas. Also, my stepdaughter, Juliet, plays Delilah on the show. So it is a bit of a family affair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now that Cobra Kai is such a big hit, how do you feel about a new generation finding Karate Kid?
I think it's amazing. To have done a film 30 some years ago and to have it be relevant now and discovered by an entire new generation of people is really exciting. I think, one of smartest and most effective things that the producers of Cobra Kai have done is that they straddle the fence catering to the guys my age that grew up with the films. And so it's nostalgic for them. And then the other side of the fence are young guys like you, young guys and girls who are sort of now just discovering it. And you guys might be able to tell me this, but it seems to me like a lot of people maybe got turned on to Cobra Kai and then went and watched the movies afterward. They first discovered the show and then discovered the films that inspired the show.
I have a lot of friends who actually did that. They told me that they did that.
Yeah, Netflix really helped that show really out.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, I was really excited when I saw your clip in season 3, and I went on my phone, and people were so excited, like thinking Mike Barnes is coming. He's coming back. Are there any talks, or would you be interested in joining the show?
Sure, I'd definitely be interested, and I have spoken with the producers, and I think they want to incorporate all of the actors from the original films into the show as best they can, but organically, so that it's not just a cameo, but it actually enhances the story and is done in a way that makes sense. So sure, yeah, it'd be a lot of fun to dust off the old black sleeveless gi.
Yeah. What do you have like an ideal way that he would return? Like a vision for that?
Well, here's the thing. If you remember, Mike Barnes was promised 50% of the Cobra Kai dojos by Terry Silver, and that wasn't predicated on him winning. That was just, you get 50%. So I think Mike's got a very strong claim to assert some ownership to the Cobra Kai dojo. So that would be the first thing. I don't know if he'd necessarily come back and be a bad guy, though. I mean, I like to think maybe this guy was, he was 17. At 17, there are very few people that can't be turned around sometimes. But I like to think maybe he got straightened out, maybe went to the military, came out an officer. He's now kind of an honorable guy. And everybody always speculates if Mike would fight Johnny, and they never knew each other. There's no reason to believe that Mike and Johnny would be enemies, unless, of course, Mike's behavior is the way that it was when he was a 17-year-old kid. But man, if he's still trapped in that kind of mindset as an adult, then he's got bigger problems than trying to get the Cobra Kai dojo back. I mean, I suppose it's possible that he could have just become a worse guy and went to prison and just become a complete sociopath. But I think it'd be more interesting to play him as a guy that overcame that and maybe wound up doing something really interesting. Because here's the thing. You got to admit that a guy that was a tournament champion like that, whether he fought dirty or not, there's got to be something in him that is the DNA of being a winner. Mm-hmm. And I like to think maybe he was able to positively focus that and do something, good with his life.
I can see that. That sounds fun. Do you have a most memorable moment from the Karate Kid set?
Oh boy. Well, look, the final tournament was just so exciting to film. I mean, there were, John Avildsen had like 8 cameras running. There were a couple hundred people in the audience, and I had sat in the movie theater watching the first 2, and so now I'm looking around and I'm at the All Valley tournament and I'm fighting in it, and it's like, this is incredible. It looked exactly like you think it's gonna look like. There's that big red mat with the fist on the ground, and with remember the the board, the scoreboard or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like, it looks exactly like it looked in the movies, and now here I am. So that was pretty crazy. What else was? And kind of the same thing when I was in the Cobra Kai dojo too. It was surreal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. If Mike Barnes and Daniel LaRusso had a rematch today, how would you see that playing out?
Well, I kind of gotta hope that Mike would win. I am a little partial.
Is there anything special you do to get into any mindset for your characters?
Well, I mean, it depends what the character is. I think part of being an actor, and the part that I really like is you get to be a detective, an emotional detective. You're not only, figuring out emotionally what the character's all about, what are his drives, what are his overriding umbrella goals, and then what are the smaller goals and the actions you take to achieve them, which is also very similar to what we do in life. And then, when you're playing someone that may come from a different place, come from a different background, come from a different occupation, you have to get into doing that investigative work so that you can do your very best to understand what that's about, to bring it to the role. I mean, I'll give you an example. I mean, Daniel Day-Lewis, who is, I think, probably one of the finest actors of all time, when he was preparing for Lincoln, learned calligraphy. I mean, he learned how to write the way that people wrote during those times, and just incredible. If you're studying somebody that, I don't know, if somebody is from another geography than you are, you want to learn, is there an accent? What are the social influences from that place that are different than the ones that I'm exposed to, that might influence how that character behaves? All sorts of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Is there any new projects you have coming out anytime soon, or anything you're working on that you want to tell us about?
Well, right now, I'm really excited about my new book. It's available for pre-sale. It's called Way of the Cobra, and you can check it out at wayofthecobra.com. What I do is I use the structure of, it's a dojo, the dojo of life, and teaching people to become a Cobra is teaching people to live their best life, be their most authentic self. Cobra is an acronym for character optimization, balance, respect, and abundance. And I'm really excited about this, because these are the philosophies and strategies that I have perfected over my lifetime that have allowed me to achieve some of the successes that I've achieved. And I'm a firm believer that, success is something that's, it's a lot like love. It's like, in order to have it, you gotta give it away. And I got into acting because initially I thought it was to express myself, and that was partially true. But as I've gotten older, I realized I got into it because I wanted to inspire people. And taking that a step further, I realized that acting wasn't the only conduit that I could use effectively to inspire people. And so my writing has now become a very important way for me to do that. And that's what this book is all about. I also have another project that I'm waiting to find out if I leave to go start a film next month. So I got that going on, and doing a lot of press right now for Studio City. And, we'll be doing season 2 of Studio City. It's sometime probably towards the end of this year, probably like in around October, November of this year.
That sounds good. That's all we have. Thank you for talking to us.
You guys, it was an absolute pleasure. And John, I got to tell you, I've known your dad forever, and he's one of my favorite people. And it's just such an honor and a pleasure to talk to you. And I'm looking at you right now, and man, I can see the callous genes.
I know, I get told that all the time.
You guys have really strong genes. So it's a pleasure. And I hope at some point, when the pandemic is over and all the craziness, I get a chance to say hi to both you guys in person.
Thank you.
All right. I want to wish you the best of luck. Stay safe, and listen. Make 2021 your year, guys. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing
all right,
this,
guys. Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Well, you guys heard him. You can check him out, Studio City on Amazon. He has a new book coming out. Everything will be linked down below. Go check it out. Support him, and we hope you enjoy it. This is really exciting for us.